a just share in the whole of South Africa. We want equal political rights. One man, one vote. I have dedicated myself to this struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination. I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a free, democratic society where all persons live together in harmony with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and achieve. But, if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
That was a clip from Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. It's normal in these situations for a journalist to say to the actor, so what was it that attracted you to the role? But that seems like the answer is going to be very obvious because it's the role of a lifetime, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, outside of being such an amazing man or an amazing story to tell about someone, you know, I get to age over 52 years and, you know, sort of really, you know, sort of use my craft in the most, you know, well, extreme way. This is a man I've never met, you know, and I sort of had to bring my interpretation across. You know, I don't look anything like Mandela, and it's a big ask of the audience to go, "Oh, this is Mandela," and everyone's going, "No, it ain't." But as a gift, as an actor, you know, you sort of bring the soul of a character to life, and then hopefully the audience go with you, and eventually they stop looking at you and start looking at the character. Yeah, so it was a massive part.
Because a lot of people, and I include myself in this, only really know Nelson Mandela as an old man. He was 72 when he was released. So to see the younger years, I mean, those are some of the most enlightening parts of the movie, aren't they? To see him young, energetic, a womanizer, you know, to see things perhaps we didn't know about him before.
Yeah, I think that's what we wanted, you know. We wanted to give the audience an experience. People, you know, go, "Oh, it's about Mandela," but, you know, where's the apartheid moments? Where's all the atrocities in South Africa? Well, it's not called Nelson and Apartheid. It's called Nelson Mandela. It's called The Long Walk to Freedom. You know, this guy started in a small village in South Africa, and no one knows that. Let's show it. Let's show his whole journey to where he became, you know, the stately man we know. And there was flaws in his earlier life, you know. There were moments where you think to yourself, "What? Mandela did that?" Yes, he did, you know. And the truth is, he's a man. You know, I remember I met Winnie Mandela, and she sat me down and she said, "Look, I'm so happy that you're playing my husband. It's because finally someone's going to play him as a real man." And, you know, the biggest compliment to me, she only met me 5 minutes. She goes, I recognize my husband in you. You know, she met him when he was, 40, 39, 40. That's my age now, you know what I mean? It's like, that was such a massive compliment for me, and also a confirmation that I think we're making the right sort of film. We're not just making a sanctimonious biopic here. We want to show you who he was as a younger man and take you on a journey.
But those younger years presumably are more difficult to research. I mean, the last 25 years, endless TV footage and news footage, anything you could ask for, really. But the early years, you're not going to get as much, are you?
No, you're right. There's probably two, as a BBC journalist, believe it or not, there's two pieces of footage with him speaking on camera. And I remember, you know, he doesn't look like anything like the older Mandela we know, you know, anything like, you know, he was big fella and stuttered and spoke very quickly. And you could see him getting annoyed in interviews, you know. And you're like, well, you know, if you saw him in real life back then, he's a formidable character. And then, you know, to see him coming out of jail that first time, and it was this frail older man, but just with such dignity, you're like, wow. What happened to you in jail? You know, it's quite interesting, man.
I didn't know about the boxing either. I mean, and the boxing works as a nice kind of metaphor for him being a fighter all through his life, really, doesn't it? But again, you're seeing someone athletic, aren't you?
Yeah, no, he was. He loved to box, you know, and he was definitely. The boxing, we spoke to a man that actually knew Mandela back then, and he said he wasn't very good, but he had a wicked right hand.
let's talk about the aging then, because there are prosthetics involved in you aging to, you know, being in the 70s and 80s. But actually, for me, I mean, a lot of it's the hair. I think he has such iconic hair, both younger with the kind of the very sharp parting,
Yeah.
and then of course the older, whiter hair.
Yeah.
The hair is so iconic. As soon as that is on you, then you know you're him, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, I was, you know, when we designed the sort of prosthetic makeup journey, you know, it was important that we didn't go from 0 to 60, you know, very quickly. You know, we just sort of tried to do it gradually. And then the end payoff being the most recognizable Mandela we can do. But the gradual moments are really Idris getting older. Do you know what I mean? Because by that point, the audience are already, you know, bought into me, hopefully. But at the end, you know, when we start putting on the very iconic shirts and the very sort of, you know, specific walk and so on and so forth, that was my, you know, biggest sort of interpretation of Mandela as we know him. But the makeup was very much designed to sort of, you know, feature his most charismatic things, his face and his eyes. You know, we looked nothing alike, but we paid attention to those details to give the audience a break and go, oh, there he is, that's Mandela.
It was it's a long walk to freedom, but it's also a long process of getting this film made, wasn't it? I mean, it's ever since the autobiography came out. How aware were you over the years of this movie and the attempts to make this movie?
Actually, interesting, about 10, 15 years ago, I heard that Denzel Washington was going to be making Mandela, and I remember being so excited. That he's going to be amazing, you know. Big Denzel fan, and you know, Malcolm X and all of that. So I remember sort of paying attention that Denzel was going to do this film. Cut to 10, 15 years later, my agent's calling me up, and I'm like, well, what? What happened to Denzel? I think that Anant Singh, who's been toting this script around for such a long time.
He's the producer.
Yeah, he's the producer, yeah. Anant, you know, he must be so proud at the moment. You know, we opened the film in Paris last year, and there was a premiere, and I had to stop and just thank him on stage. You know, it was quite a tearful moment because, you know, this guy's been carrying this script and this idea for years, and here it is in a film state. It was such a good moment for him.
And it was all shot entirely in South Africa.
Yeah.
And you've got locals involved as well, didn't you?
Yeah, no, the South Africa is is a big character in our film. You know, it's South African made. You know, we shot it in, you know, Kliptown and Soweto. We got, you know, young Sowetans who were probably too young to be a part of, you know, the Mandela era in its golden years, but know exactly who he is, have felt his presence in the country. And, you know, you're standing there, Idris Elba from The Wire is standing there in front of all these extras who know exactly who I am, and they're going, oh, go on then, give us your best Mandela. And there was no lying. You couldn't look them in the eye and pretend or act, you know. There was real moments where, you know, these speeches, some of them didn't actually make the film, but these speeches were evoking real emotion between me and them and their history and their parents' history, and it was powerful, you know. And I remember anytime we did crowd scenes where I had to do a big speech, you know, there was no rehearsals allowed, you know, and Justin would set up 2 or 3 cameras, 1 on them, 2 on them, and 2 on me, and boom, go straight for it. And what you got was a reaction from the audience that was, oh, and then, oh, you know, it was kind of interesting.
You mentioned the meeting with Winnie Mandela. How did that come about? I mean, did you feel you had to meet people close to the great man to be able to take on this role?
No, that, you know, Winnie and his daughters, Zinzi and Zanani, Ahmed Kafrada, Eddie Daniels, Desmond Tutu were the only core people I met that really, really know him very well outside of Anant Singh. I didn't want to meet everyone. I didn't want to meet just the people that knew him well, because that was going to be a slanted sort of view on him. I wanted to meet journalists that met him once, and the ice cream man that served him ice cream once, because I got more informed about his aura that way. What it felt like when he left. What did it feel like before he was coming? That really sort of informed what his presence was like. And presence is really hard to make on screen. You either have it or you don't. But when you're talking about Mandela, who has like eons of it, I just had to understand what the reactions were. I went to South Africa probably 2 months prior to shooting so I could understand what Mandela meant. And it turns out not everyone was a Mandela fan in South Africa. Not everybody was like, oh, it's Mandela, it's Mandela. And that was a surprise to me. But it also informed my performance. It informed my sort of, okay, I see where this is coming from.
It's great to meet you. Thank you very much.
You too, James. Thanks very much. Cheers.